Hello, 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 hello. Hey, y'all. This is Tamika, the face behind Hey HR. I have a great topic for you guys today, and that topic is how to negotiate the salary that you deserve. We always get so confused, like, oh man, I feel like I should be making more money. I need more money. This doesn't feel like the right amount of money. Then let's talk about that today. Because a lot of times, by the time we start talking about the money, we've already accepted whatever salary it is that we weren't excited about accepting anyhow. And I say salary, but that also means an hourly rate. You're going to always go into some places and they have a set rate. Most times that's your big food chain places like grocery stores or your Walmarts, your Targets, and everybody has the same rate. And then they grow up, with additional income later that may differentiate their pay. But in most instances, if you're not in one of those places, you can negotiate a salary. There's a salary range or a salary pay scale that tells us how much each position we're willing to pay for that position. So it gives us a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. Obviously, you don't want to come into the job and get the maximum because you'll never get a pay increase again, or it doesn't leave you much room to just earn more money over time or what have you. Depending on your experience, you definitely want to start somewhere between the minimum and the midpoint. So if you get anywhere between the minimum and the midpoint or even above the midpoint, then that's automatically, in your favor. Like you already made some money, honey. The question is, what is compensation, or what is salary, or what is hourly rate? That is your base pay, right? So that's the amount that you make, and that's the amount that you are going to have benefit premiums taken out of, that you may have taxes taken out of. If you have garnishments, those will come out of that amount. So you always want to make sure that you know that your salary is the amount that you're starting with prior to any deductions. And so another thing, and the reason why I like the word compensation is because most times people think, okay, whatever my hourly rate is or whatever my salary is, then that's my compensation. No, your compensation includes a lot more. So your compensation includes benefits. Like, are you paying, a comfortable amount that you can afford for premiums for your health, your vision, your dental? Or does it seem like you're paying an extra car payment? Another thing is your PTO or your sick leave. Are you working enough to get some comfortable time so that you can have time to recuperate in months coming up? And you can feel like, oh, yes, I'm still going to get a paycheck while I'm absent. So that's part of your compensation plan as well. Retirement contributions that the company may give for you is also part of your compensation, in my opinion, because that's a part of your benefits package. And so you always want to know, like, are they giving me back 3% on the dollar? Are they giving me back the full dollar for whatever percentage that they're giving me? What are they capping me out at? Are they capping me out at 6%, 8%, 10%? The company's giving money back to you that's going to work for you when you retire. So you always want to make sure you know what that looks like as well, because that's definitely a part of your compensation, in my opinion. I put it there. And then any other company perks or benefits. So you don't want to pay attention to the company credit card because that's not your card. You're not using it for personal benefits. You're not going to charge anything that's not authorized. So that's not a part of your compensation. But am I getting a free cell phone, or are they giving me a cell phone stipend where I'm not having to pay my entire phone bill? Keep in mind that whenever you get some money towards your cell phone, it's because they're expecting to use your cell phone partially as a business phone as well. But there's also a perk, a benefit, or a part of your compensation where you're not having to pay that full phone bill all by yourself. Are you getting some free trips? Are you going to conferences? Are you going to meetings? Are these ones that will allow you to not have to pay anything out of pocket? Are you getting a per diem where instead of, truly using all of your per diem and spending, $80 a day on food, you decide, okay, I'm going to pack some lunches and I'm going to eat out one time and I'm going to grab some Chick-fil-A. So out of that $80, I'm going to use $15, which takes you home all the rest of your money. Like, that's part of your compensation as well. It's truly a perk or benefit. It's not really part of compensation, but it's what I would call a perk or benefit. But at the end of the day, these are all things that either bring in additional money to you or allow you to retain money. So you definitely want to make sure that whenever you're negotiating your salary, you're not just negotiating how much you make. You always want to know, What's your benefit package look like? Can you send me what my premiums would look like? Can I see an employee handbook ahead of time? Do those calculations and see, well, this is kind of what I expect taxes to take out. This is what they're going to take out for everything that I need. This is the amount that I'm taking home. You want to have an estimate of your net payment or your net salary to know that, is this a compensation that, or is this a salary, a pay rate that works for me? You might get your first paycheck and think you make a whole bunch of money, and then all of these deductions come out, and then you're like, oh man, I should have negotiated more money. Ask for that stuff ahead of time so that you don't get any surprises by the time it's time for you to have your paycheck in the bank. So most people might say, well, Tamika, I still don't know what the range is. I mean, should I just ask them what the range is and think that they're going to tell me? Especially don't do that before the job offer. Don't ever talk about pay unless it's brought up as a conversation to you. Ignore pay. Pay is not a topic, because that's a turn off for an employer and it doesn't feel like you're here for the right reasons. So what you want to do is when they give you that offer or they start asking you what kind of salary are you looking for, then you definitely want to have a number in mind. And one way to have a number in mind is research that company, research that position, research that job title. You can do that by various sources, especially online. So there's salary.com, there's Glassdoor, there's LinkedIn. Sometimes LinkedIn will give you like what they guesstimate that salary to make. There's even the federal websites that you can use that you can narrow it down by location in the United States, that job title, that industry, and that can give you a range. If you're very far off, then yeah, you want to look at more resources. But if you're pretty close together, then you're like, oh, okay, this is what the salary probably is. And this is what I was making at my last job. This is how much experience I'm bringing forward. So this is what I need to pay my bills. And this is what I need, as extra money to pay for gas or what have you. You know what? I'm going to go for this salary because this is where I'm comfortable. Or maybe you feel like you bring so much experience. You're like, okay, I can live comfortably on this amount, but I truly am going to bring this amount of work to the table. So always have that number in your mind. But I always tell folks too, that you always want to make sure that you're careful. So when someone calls you with a job offer, I've learned, or I don't think that is a bad idea to say, okay, thank you so much. I'm really appreciative. I really am excited about this. But can I first discuss this salary with my partner or with my spouse? Or even if you're not in a marriage or committed to anyone, say, can I review this with your benefits or what have you? And can I get back with you within 24 hours with an acceptance? That's not a bad thing at all, especially if you haven't received the benefits yet. So always give yourself time, like sleep on it. Think about it. Does this really work for me? Truly sit down with your partner. I don't ever think that it makes sense, in my opinion, if I'm making, $15 at this job and then you offer me a job at $15.50, it just doesn't make no sense for me to move. I mean, so guys, when y'all look at this thing, don't say, oh, well, I got a job, or, oh, I'm just making some money, and walk out the door with that. Know your worth. Know what you're worth. Are you worth $15? You were just bringing $15 worth of work. Or you bringing $20? Think about it ahead of time. These companies are going to, once they get locked in, it's difficult to kind of say, okay, I want to renegotiate my salary. And a lot of times you can do that during performance reviews, but is it going to bump you where you think you should have been walking in the door? So you always want to negotiate that ahead of time. When you walk in the door, don't get sideswiped. Don't get into a job where you feel like, okay, in 6 months I'm going to leave because I'm going to the next job that's going to pay me more. Start that off right so you can get longevity on your resume and you don't have to jump from job to job, okay? And that actually leads me into my next topic, which is know your worth. Sit down and know how much value you bring to the organization. I mean, I know that there are plenty of times that I probably could have worked a little less in the evening and spent more time with my daughter. I know that maybe instead of taking that Friday to say I'm going to get some extra work in, maybe I should have cut it off a little bit earlier during the day and taken her out for dinner or something like that. You know, there are many times that I sit down and I regret that I've worked so much for an organization and neglect my family life. Or maybe I just needed to unplug. Maybe I have had a crazy week. I've already worked long hours. I've been nonstop all day long. Maybe I even missed some lunch breaks or what have you because I've just been getting it for them. Well, at the end of the day, you're no good to anybody else if you don't take care of yourself. So always make sure that sometimes you're factoring in time where you're like, I'm going to work really hard, but I still need some time to kind of balance out. But when I work hard, it's going to be worth this amount. Know your worth. Each time you change a job, please don't change for something where that salary increase is going to get swiped up into taxes. That's pointless. You could have just stayed at the last place. Make sure that when you leave, you're having a lifestyle change, or you're actually seeing some money in your paycheck, or you're able to do something extra with your family because now you're making more money. Don't leave for the same amount of money, and don't leave for just a minuscule amount of money. It's hard for me to tell folks, you know, an exact amount because it depends on your industry, it depends on your position, that type of thing. It depends on what your company benefits look like. But always make sure that when you leave or you change from one job to another, that you're leaving worth, with a salary that's worth leaving for. Okay. So another thing within knowing your worth and not settling, you want to look at your personal budget. I don't know if you guys know, but there are other channels on YouTube that can tell you some great things about personal budgeting. I love a good budget. I feel like if I don't budget my money, I don't know where my money went. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what's coming up. I don't like financial surprises. I'm a single mom. I run my house by myself. Financial surprises are not comfortable. So always make sure to stick to a budget because that'll help you understand, can I afford the salary that they're giving me or do I need more? Always reflect on your experience. If you know that you bring a ton of experience to the table, definitely reflect on that and see what that brings, what you think you should get paid for that. Another thing is, do you have financial goals? Are you out looking for a new job because you're trying to meet like those 2020 goals or those 2021 goals or what have you? And maybe you have some ideas of what you want to do around the house or with the family. Then that should automatically help you understand what salary you're looking for as well. Again, if you know you're bringing top-notch work for the company, then you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the salary that you're taking home or the pay rate that you're taking home. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging around. I really appreciate you guys coming in and watching all my tips. If you have any comments or any suggestions or any questions, definitely put them in the comments below. If you stuck around this time and you really enjoyed it, please hit the like button. And if by chance this isn't your first video, or maybe you watch this whole video, you're totally intrigued and you want to see what's coming up next, why don't you hit the subscribe button and maybe even hit the alerts. And if you made it this far, please comment ribbon. Thank you. See y'all in the next video.